But first, while the Albanese government is fast shaping up to be one of the most incompetent in recent times, it's certainly got plenty of political rat cunning, like its refusal to release details about how ministers like Richard Marles use the VIP jets that cost taxpayers millions, despite this information being released almost routinely by other governments. Like the tricky way too, they now issue media announcements after ministers have left the press conference so that questions can be avoided. Like yesterday's example involving Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill, like we saw too with the Prime Minister and those injured naval divers hurt by a Chinese warship. But all that pales into insignificance when you look at Labor's latest plan to increase the size of the Senate. Because the one thing they've learned from their massive defeat over the Voice is that the only place where they can count on hard left support, come what may, is the ACT. So why not exploit that? Because if the bad polls continue, this is a government that could well end up in minority or out of power altogether. Now, the ACT is the home of woke. Canberra is the city with the highest percentage of public servants and the highest average income in the country, meaning most households there are insulated from the real world. The ACT is the one jurisdiction that voted for a republic back in 1999, and it was the only jurisdiction that voted yes to the Voice in October. Indeed, while the nation voted 60-40 against the Voice, Canberra voted 60-40 for the Voice. So naturally, federal Labor is now looking at giving the ACT an extra 2 senators following a parliamentary committee recommendation, taking it to 4 in the ACT and the NT in total. And while you might think at home, I don't live in Canberra, Peter, I don't care, well, here's why it matters to all of us. Extra senators in the ACT and the Territory are a way of making it easier for Labor governments and much harder for coalition ones to get legislation through the Senate. And that's exactly the kind of manipulation that could be expected from a Prime Minister still smarting from the defeat of an issue he thought he couldn't lose. You see, with 2 senators, the quota for election is 1/3 of the vote, which in the past has always meant 1 senator for each of the 2 major parties, 1 Liberal, 1 Labor from the ACT. But with 4 senators, well, the quota for election is just 20% of the vote. And with the Green left so strong, that means the ACT would likely return 3 left-wing senators and just 1 on the centre-right, making it that much harder for coalition governments to get their legislation through the parliament. It's often forgotten that while governments are formed in the House of Reps, laws need to pass both houses of parliament. And that's why governments, especially the coalition type, can be in office, so can be in government, but not in power, because they struggle to get their legislation through the parliament, even where they've got a clear mandate. Now, a good example here is 2013. Tony Abbott had a mandate to scrap the carbon tax, could not have been a clearer mandate. But Labor refused to back the legislation. In fact, he only managed to get it done with a mixed bag of votes from the crossbench. So you can see the problem here for coalition governments, can't you? Particularly when Labor never respects the voters' mandate. And the more senators for the ACT will just make that problem worse. It's no wonder the Special Minister of State has said, and he would, and I quote, "Look at how quickly we can implement these recommendations." Now, I don't think they're going to do the ones to increase the size of the House of Reps. I think they're just in this report as a smoke screen. The real strategic play here is to give the territories more senators designed to help Labor. As well, we hear the ACT Chief Minister Andrew Barr, well, he's rumoured to want to enter the Senate. More ACT senators will mean he can be accommodated without rolling Katie Gallagher. Now, this is a deeply cynical exercise, but this is how Labor rewrites the rules in its favour, and it stinks.